Welcome to another spine-chilling tale on Twilight Clue. Today, we're diving into one of the most haunting and unsolved mysteries in history, the Hinterkaifeck murders. In 1922, a remote farm in Germany became the scene of a brutal crime that still baffles investigators and terrifies locals to this day. So, turn off the lights, grab a blanket, and let's uncover the dark secrets of Hinterkaifeck. Hinterkaifeck was a small, isolated farm in Bavaria, Germany, about 70 kilometers north of Munich. It was home to the Gruber family. Andreas Gruber, 63, his wife Cecilia, 72, their widowed daughter Victoria Gabriel, 35, and Victoria's two children, Cecilia, 7, and Joseph, 2. The family had recently hired a new maid, Maria Baumgartner, who arrived at the farm on March 31, 1922, the very day the nightmare began. The Grubers were known to be private, even reclusive, and had a reputation for being a bit strange. Rumors swirled about family tensions, including whispers of an inappropriate relationship between Andreas and Victoria, but nothing prepared the small community for what was about to happen. In the days leading up to the murders, eerie things started happening at Hinterkaifeck. Andreas told neighbors he'd heard footsteps in the attic, but when he checked, no one was there. He also found strange footprints in the snow leading from the forest to the farm, but there were no footprints leading back. A newspaper appeared on the property that didn't belong to the family, and one of the house keys went missing. The family's previous maid had quit 6 months earlier, claiming the house was haunted after hearing voices and footsteps. These unsettling events set the stage for the horror that was about to unfold. It was as if someone or something was watching the Grubers, waiting for the right moment to strike. On the night of March 31, 1922, the Gruber family and their new maid were brutally murdered. The killer used a mattock, a heavy farming tool similar to a pickaxe, that was found at the scene. The first to die were Andreas, Cecilia, Victoria, and young Cecilia, who were lured one by one into the barn. Investigators believe the killer hid in the hayloft, waiting for each family member to enter. Andreas, Cecilia, and Victoria were struck repeatedly on the head, their skulls shattered. The most heartbreaking detail came from young Cecilia's autopsy. She had lived for several hours after the attack, lying in the barn, pulling out her own hair in agony and fear. After killing the 4 in the barn, the murderer entered the house. Maria, the new maid, was killed in her bedroom, her head smashed with the same mattock. Little Joseph, just 2 years old, was also murdered in his crib, his tiny body left lifeless. The scene was gruesome. Blood splattered the walls, and the bodies were left where they fell. But what happened next made this crime even more chilling. After the murders, the killer didn't flee. Instead, they stayed at Hinterkaifeck for several days. They ate the family's food in the kitchen, leaving behind a half-eaten loaf of bread. They fed the farm animals and even milked the cows. Neighbors later reported seeing smoke rising from the chimney, meaning the killer had lit a fire to keep warm. For days, this murderer lived among the dead, going about daily chores as if nothing had happened. It wasn't until April 4th, when neighbors grew concerned that the family hadn't been seen, that the bodies were discovered. The little girl, Cecilia, was supposed to be at school, but she never showed up, prompting a search that led to the horrifying scene. The police were baffled by the case. The brutality of the murders, combined with the killer's strange behavior, made it unlike anything they'd seen before. They interviewed dozens of suspects, but no one was ever convicted. One theory pointed to a neighbor, Lorenz Schlittenbauer, who had a complicated history with Victoria. Some believed he might have been the father of little Joseph, and there were rumors of a financial dispute. Lorenz led the group that discovered the bodies, but his behavior raised suspicions. He seemed oddly calm and even moved the bodies before the police arrived, potentially tampering with evidence. Another theory suggested a vagrant or a serial killer passing through the area, possibly someone who had been watching the family for days. Some even speculated that Victoria's husband, Karl Gabriel, who was presumed dead in World War I, might have returned to exact revenge. But no solid evidence ever emerged to support any of these theories. The murder weapon, the mattock, belonged to the farm, meaning the killer either knew the property well or had been there long enough to find it. The Hinterkaifeck murders remain one of Germany's most infamous unsolved cases. The farm was demolished a year later, in 1923, and a small memorial now stands in its place. But the story doesn't end there. Locals still report feeling an eerie presence near the site, and some claim to hear strange noises at night. The case has been studied for over a century, with modern investigators even exhuming the bodies in the 1980s to look for new clues. But the mystery persists. Who killed the Gruber family and their maid? Why did the murderer stay at the farm for days, living among the dead? And what drove someone to commit such a heinous act? These questions continue to haunt true crime enthusiasts and paranormal investigators alike. That's the chilling tale of the Hinterkaifeck murders, a real-life horror story that defies explanation. What do you think happened that fateful night in 1922? Was it a vengeful neighbor, a deranged stranger, or something more sinister? Let me know your theories in the comments below, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell for more true horror stories. Until next time, stay curious and stay safe.